92% of orthopedic doctors recommend this osteoporosis prevention method to their own mothers. Hello there, lovely friends. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're going to talk about something that affects so many of us women as we age, our bone health. You know, when I turned 45, my doctor first mentioned osteoporosis to me, and honestly, I felt a bit blindsided. I thought, isn't that something I need to worry about when I'm much older? Well, as it turns out, our bone health journey begins much earlier than most of us realize. So today, I want to have a heart-to-heart chat about protecting our bones and preventing osteoporosis, because trust me, this is something we should all be thinking about right now, not later. Before we dive in, if you're new here, I'd love for you to join our community by hitting that subscribe button. We talk about all sorts of health and wellness topics that matter to us women in this wonderful chapter of life. Section 1, Understanding Osteoporosis. Did you know that 1 in 2 women over 50 will break a bone due to osteoporosis? That statistic stopped me in my tracks when I first heard it. Osteoporosis is often called the silent disease because you can't feel your bones weakening. Many women don't even know they have it until they experience a fracture, often in the hip, spine, or wrist. By that point, significant bone loss has already occurred. Here's what's happening. Throughout our lives, our bones are constantly being broken down and rebuilt. When we're younger, we build more bone than we lose. But as we age, particularly after menopause, this balance shifts. We start losing bone faster than we can rebuild it, leading to weaker, more fragile bones. And ladies, this process accelerates dramatically after menopause when our estrogen levels drop. In fact, we can lose up to 20% of our bone density in the 5 to 7 years following menopause. That's why taking action now is so important. Have you noticed getting shorter as you've aged? That could be a sign of bone loss in your spine. Or perhaps you've had a fracture from a minor bump or fall. These are warning signs we shouldn't ignore. Section 2, Know Your Risk Factors. Let's talk about who's most at risk. Are you nodding along to any of these? First, being a woman over 50, especially after menopause, that's a major risk factor right there. Do you have a family history of osteoporosis? Perhaps your mother or grandmother had a hip fracture. Bone health does run in families. Are you petite with a small frame? Unfortunately, having less bone mass to begin with puts you at higher risk. What about your lifestyle? If you're a smoker, regularly drink more than 2 alcoholic beverages a day, or lead a sedentary lifestyle, your risk increases. Certain medical conditions also play a role. Rheumatoid arthritis, celiac disease, and some thyroid conditions can all affect bone health. And if you've been on long-term medications like steroids for conditions such as asthma or arthritis, this is something to be mindful of as well. If you're nodding your head to several of these factors, don't worry. Knowledge is power, and now we can talk about what to actually do about it. Section 3, The Calcium Connection. Let's talk calcium, the cornerstone of bone health. According to the National Institutes of Health, women over 50 need about 1/200 milliliters of calcium daily. To give you an idea of what that looks like in real food, 1 cup of milk contains about 300 milligrams. A serving of yogurt has roughly the same. A piece of cheese contains about 200 ml. A cup of kale gives you about 100 milliliters. I used to think I was getting enough calcium through my diet until I actually tracked it for a week. I was shocked to discover I was only getting about half of what I needed. How many of you think you're getting enough calcium? You might be surprised if you were to track it too. Not a dairy person? No problem, there are plenty of other calcium-rich options. Canned salmon with bones, tofu made with calcium sulfate, almonds and other nuts, dark leafy greens like kale and broccoli, fortified foods like plant milks, orange juice, and cereals. I personally love starting my day with a smoothie that includes Greek yogurt, almond milk, and a handful of kale. It's delicious and gives me a good calcium boost first thing in the morning. Remember, our bodies can only absorb about 500 milliliters of calcium at once, so it's best to spread your intake throughout the day rather than getting it all at once. Section 4. Vitamin D, calcium's best friend. Now, here's something many of us miss. Calcium needs vitamin D to be properly absorbed by our bodies. They're like best friends. One isn't very effective without the other. Did you know that many of us, especially those living in less sunny climates, are vitamin D deficient? I live in Mention Your Location, and when I had my levels checked, I was surprised to find mine were quite low, even though I spend time outdoors. The NIH recommends women over 50 get 800 to 1,000 IU of vitamin D daily. The sunlight on our skin can produce vitamin D naturally, but as we age, our skin becomes less efficient at this process. I try to get 10-15 minutes of sunshine on my arms and legs a few times a week. Without sunscreen during those specific minutes, though, please use sunscreen at all other times. In the winter months, this becomes more challenging, so I'm more conscious about food sources and supplements. Food sources of vitamin D include fatty fish like salmon and tuna, egg yolks, mushrooms exposed to UV light, fortified milk, plant milks, and cereals. Many of us need a supplement, especially in winter months or if we don't get regular sun exposure. This is definitely something worth discussing with your doctor, as they can check your levels with a simple blood test. Section 5. Exercise for stronger bones. Ladies, I cannot stress this enough. Movement is medicine for our bones. Exercise is one of the most powerful things we can do to maintain and even build bone density. There are two types of exercise particularly beneficial for bone health. First, weight-bearing exercises where you work against gravity. These include walking, my personal favorite, jogging, dancing, tennis, hiking, stair climbing. I aim for at least 30 minutes of weight-bearing exercise 3 to 4 times a week. Even something as simple as a brisk walk around the neighborhood can make a significant difference. Second, resistance or strength training exercises, using resistance bands, weight machines, free weights, body weight exercises like squats and push-ups. Don't worry, you don't need to become a bodybuilder. Even light weights or resistance bands used correctly can help maintain bone density. I started with 2-pound dumbbells and gradually worked my way up. If you have existing osteoporosis or low bone density, it's important to work with a physical therapist or qualified trainer who understands your condition. They can help you exercise safely. I've noticed that since I've incorporated regular strength training into my routine twice a week, not only do I feel stronger, but everyday activities like carrying groceries or playing with my grandchildren have become so much easier. What's your favorite way to stay active? Let me know in the comments below. Section 6. Lifestyle factors to consider. Let's talk about some lifestyle factors that affect our bone health. First, smoking. If you're still smoking, I know you've heard this before, but it's worth repeating. Smoking accelerates bone loss and increases fracture risk. If you need support quitting, please talk to your healthcare provider about resources available to you. It's never too late to quit and start reaping the benefits. Next, alcohol. While a glass of wine with dinner is fine for most women, excessive alcohol consumption can interfere with the bone remodeling process. Try to keep it to no more than 1 drink per day. What about caffeine? I'll be honest, giving up my morning coffee would be a struggle. The good news is moderate caffeine consumption. 1 to 2 cups of coffee per day isn't a major concern for most women. However, excessive caffeine can increase calcium excretion in our urine. I found that having a calcium-rich food alongside my coffee, like yogurt or cheese, helps offset this effect. Lastly, carbonated sodas, especially colas, have been linked to lower bone density. Water, herbal teas, and milk are much better choices for hydration and bone health. Remember, it's all about balance and moderation. Small, sustainable changes over time can make a big difference to your bone health. Section 7, Screening and Early Detection. One question I hear often is, when should I get my bone density checked? Great question. According to the latest guidelines from the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, all women should have a bone density test at age 65. However, if you have risk factors we discussed earlier, you might need testing sooner. The gold standard test is called a DXA scan, that stands for Dual Energy X-ray Absorptiometry. It's painless, quick about 10-15 minutes, and involves very minimal radiation exposure, less than a standard chest X-ray. The test gives you what's called a T-score. A score above 1 is considered normal. Between 1 and 2.5 indicates osteopenia, low bone mass. Below 2.5 is diagnosed as osteoporosis. When I got my first DXA scan at 60, I discovered I had early osteopenia in my hips. This was actually valuable information. It motivated me to get serious about calcium, vitamin D, and weight-bearing exercise. 3 years later, my follow-up scan showed improvements. Don't wait for a fracture to think about your bone health. Early detection truly is key. Talk to your doctor about when bone density testing is right for you. Section 8, Medication Options. If you're diagnosed with osteoporosis or severe osteopenia, your doctor might recommend medication along with lifestyle changes. I want to briefly mention some common options, though of course you should discuss these with your healthcare provider. Bisphosphonates are often the first-line treatment. These medications slow bone loss and can reduce fracture risk by 40–70%. They include drugs like Fosamax, Actonal, and Beniva. For some women, especially those at high risk for fractures, injections might be recommended, either Prolia denosumab, given twice yearly, or reclassed zoledronic acid, given once yearly. There are also medications that help build new bone, like Forteo and Tymlos, though these are typically reserved for women with severe osteoporosis or those who haven't responded to other treatments. Each medication has its own benefits and potential side effects. What works best for one woman might not be right for another. This is a conversation to have with your doctor, weighing your individual risk factors and preferences. I know several women in our community who have seen significant improvements in their bone density with these medications, particularly when combined with proper nutrition and exercise. Conclusion: well, my friends, we've covered a lot today. Remember, it's never too early or too late to start taking care of your bones. Let's recap our bone-building essentials. Ensure adequate calcium intake, 1–200 mg daily. Get enough vitamin D, 800–1,000 IU daily. Engage in regular weight-bearing and strength training exercises. Address lifestyle factors like smoking and excessive alcohol. Get appropriate screening based on your age and risk factors. I hope this information empowers you to take charge of your bone health. Remember, we're not just protecting ourselves from fractures. We're investing in our mobility, independence, and quality of life for years to come. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend who might benefit. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What steps are you taking to protect your bone health? Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Until next time, take good care of yourself and your bones. Recommend this osteoporosis prevention method to their own mothers. If you'd like more helpful information and tips for navigating midlife and beyond, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell.